Hey, KW family, Greater Heartland region, welcome back to our fifth session of Ignite. Glad you're still hanging in there with us. You're growing your business, you're growing yourself. We're excited about our next session today. My name is Clark Kendall, serve as a regional technology trainer of Greater Heartland, and excited, beyond excited to have Wes Litton here with us. Wes, introduce yourself.
Hey, Clark. Yeah, my name is Wes Litton. I'm with the Veris Network out of Springfield, Missouri. I'm one of the owners and the expansion director here. We're also heavily involved in our market center as an investor and on the path, hopefully, to KWU faculty someday. So that's the big goal. So I'm super blessed to be here, and I'm so excited to teach on my favorite subject, which is lead generation. As Gary says, it's the fuel, right?
That's right. Yeah, we're honored to have you. And yes, knowing that as you might hope to be a KW instructor, I know we know hope is not a strategy. You've had a strategy. You're close. You're going to get there, man. That's awesome. So we're here for the fifth session here, and this is generate your leads. And again, so excited about you presenting this content and being as this is new content at Ignite, there are tried and true things and models and systems we've learned about lead gen. We've trained on in Keller Williams for some time that you're an expert on. So I'm so excited for you to bring your expertise into this. And so for those of you all who are watching, there's a few scenarios you might be watching. You might be in the market center right now with your peers and a leadership member who is being a facilitator. And so welcome. And know that we're going to have activities that you'll be able to work either on your own or possibly in conversation with your peers there. So welcome. Thanks for tuning in. And also, you might be watching this on your own. Wherever you're at, would love to hear where you're from. So put it down in the chat where you're joining us from, even if it's beyond the Greater Heartland. We welcome you there. Or if you're watching this not live and it's a later point, but still welcome you into our virtual wonderful community here in the Greater Heartland. So Wes, we ready to get rolling here?
Let's do it.
All right.
All right, guys. So yeah, like Clark said, this is Ignite Session 5. We're talking about generating leads. So while this isn't necessarily introductory, some of it might feel a little bit rudimentary, and that's super important because I think the theme for 2022 is getting back to the basics. And out of everything you're going to learn in Ignite, I personally am convinced that if we can master these sections here in session 5 around lead generation, I can almost guarantee you'll see a bigger change in your business incrementally than anything else you can learn. So I'm super excited to dive into this. You guys are going to get a little bit of not only the amazing content that KWU has put out, and when I say amazing, this is fantastic new content, but then also it pushes us into the MREA and Shift, and I'll give you a couple of my favorite things to do in terms of lead gen as well. Sound good?
I'm ready, man.
So let's get going here. Ignite Session 5. First of all, Clark, do I have control of the slideshow?
I got you, man. We'll move
okay, sweet. So this section is made up of 4 parts. So the first is real estate expert. This is our entire Ignite class. Real estate expert, lead generation, lead follow-up, and then transaction. Remember, we have these daily success systems that we need to be doing. I'd love, if I was in person, I'd be super holding you accountable to it because it's so valuable. In fact, when I had brought in my first agent, his name's Josh, he actually did the old school Ignite his first weekend, and they have the daily 10-4. Mm-hmm. And one of those was previewing homes. So Josh was previewing about a $340,000 home, which at the time in our market, that was a lot. Our average price point was $160,000. So he's previewing this 340, and a passerby stops him. That passerby decides that she wants to see the house. So he shows her the house right there on the spot, just on a random walk-in. Well, yesterday, I kid you not, yesterday, this lead revived. So she had been in our follow-up plans for almost 4 years. She revived. She's not only listing an $800,000 house, but she's interested in buying up to $1 million as well. So do not underestimate the daily success system.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's phenomenal. It's like as you get into activities, just get into action. It's like magic happens.
So cool. It totally is. And we're going to address some of these fears around lead generation. I'm so excited about it because that's the number one thing we forget to do, right? We can learn about it, we'll read about it, we'll do all these things. But then when it comes time to doing it, it's like, there's that little piece of us, that little kid comes out and goes, what if? So I'm excited to get there. So, excuse me. Today we begin our lead gen segment. We're so excited. Lead generation is essentially finding people to work with. These are leads. These are people. So as much as we call it lead generating, really it's relationship generating. So these leads, these people are responsible for your growth. They are the fuel. They not only give you the potential to grow a business, but they also, in abundance, will allow you to protect your business in a shifted market. So we're really going to focus right now in this lead generation segment around generating those leads. You'll follow through the remainder of the lead gen segment in this Ignite course with growing your database, capturing leads at open houses, social media, and then of course capturing more leads. These leads that we're generating, they need to funnel directly into our lead follow-up systems. So don't take any piece of this in isolation. In this segment, we're going to explore the who, what, when, where, and how of lead gen. And at the same time, this segment is step one into what we call lifetime nurturing. And we call it nurturing because these leads aren't bad, they're people, right? I hate hearing the phrase bad leads. There's no bad leads, there's no bad people, right? Anyone could potentially buy or sell, it's just a matter of when. All right, so at this point, I would encourage you guys to take a look at yesterday's success and that sort of thing. Of course, and celebrate your successes. If you had any in your market center, go ahead and share them. And also, as we look down here, one of the things that we're going to have here is while we're doing this via Zoom, I'm going to say these things, we're probably going to move along pretty quick. If we do have a break, and I think we've got a couple coming up, those are going to be where we're off camera and you guys can actually just discuss. All right, so agenda for the day. I'm super excited to talk to you guys about, number one, generating business from the people you know and the people that know you. Number two, we're going to identify our sphere of influence and we're going to calculate our potential income opportunity based on that. So that's going to be one of our big activities. I really want you guys to paper and pen and work this out with me. Number three, we're going to categorize our sphere of influence to expand our reach. Number four, we're going to apply best practices of lead generation. So start thinking about what you're going to learn today. Let's consider a couple questions we might have and maybe what we'd like to learn more about. So we've got a quick conversation here, maybe about 5 minutes. Find a partner. I would like you guys to jot down your notes in the participant guide of maybe the 2 or 3 things that you would like to learn this segment. All right, guys, welcome back. So hopefully you've jotted 2 or 3 things down and you've shared them with your partner or your group you're in. As we go through the content today, let's listen to see if our questions get answered. Sound good?
Oh, I love it. Love it.
All right. So I love this. This is one of the best quotes of all time. And we're going to reference shift. We're going to talk about shift as well. But this is a Gary Keller quote. It says, "My fear of failure was greater than my fear of lead generating." Oh my goodness. Clark, what does that mean to you?
What it tells me is we lead out of our beliefs and our mindset. But we know that lead generating works. It's been ever since real estate's been a reality of growing a business, so it works. And so the fears of whatever limiting beliefs I have, that's really what's keeping me from it, not the actual activity itself.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, lead generation is probably 90% mindset, 10% skill, right? So, and this is exactly what that quote addresses. So it clarifies that lead generation is not only job number one, but it's job number one even if there's fear around keeping us from doing that activity. So same with the lead follow-up that we're going to cover later. So often we'll initiate, some people are so good about initiating contact, but they have this fear about the follow-up. It's the same idea. This fear keeps us from failing, right? Now, if we don't ever do, we don't ever fail. So it's kind of funny when you think about it. The only way to fail is to not lead generate. So let's look at this. We'll never stop lead generating, right? It's going to be in our DNA as real estate agents. Like for the rest of our career, our business is real estate and in that lead generation for real estate. So is our fear of failure greater than our fear of lead generating? Oh, goodness, Gary Keller. All right. So next we're going to
go like a gut punch right at the beginning, man. All right.
Yeah. Let's kick it off right, guys. Lead generation's already hard enough. Let's just go right to it. Let's look at the 6 core competencies of a business. So this comes directly from Shift. You guys first learned this in session 2. So number 1, lead generate, capture and convert leads to appointments. It's ironic that not only in the MREA, the base of the triangle is labeled leads, but then also in Shift, number 1 core competency is lead generating. There's a reason behind this. It's because the more leads you have, the more business and success you have. And that's what this is about. Ignite is about launching your career the appropriate way and getting into production quickly and staying in production. And you know, it's interesting. I've got some earmarks here in the MREA that I'm going to get to, but it doesn't stop, right? If all you did at any level of your business is manage these 6 core competencies, you have a phenomenal business. Our hub here in Springfield, Missouri is goals 850 closed transactions this year. That's a ton. And yet we're constantly coming back to these 6 core competencies and figuring out how to do them better, more efficiently, especially number 6, manage the money. How hard is that? But it all starts at number 1. So today, since we're talking about number 1, let's break down just 3 areas of what lead generation includes. The first is talking to people about buying and selling real estate daily. Pretty straightforward, right? It's not leads. I love it. They say people here. We talk to people about buying and selling real estate daily. Now, what's interesting is it didn't say cold call, right? It didn't say door knock. It just said talk to people. Clark, I'm sure your lead generation methods are probably different than mine. So if you wouldn't mind sharing, what maybe are a couple of lead generation methods that you prefer?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great piece there. I casted a wide net when I first began to try to figure out what I was comfortable with. So if the share out of all those activities that did expire is for sale by owners, open houses, door knocking, circle prospecting, Sphere database referrals. And for me, it came back to, I know there's enough opportunity in the people that I already know, like, and trust to have more business than I, at least presently, have the opportunity or to meet my goals. And so for me, it's engaging with the people that I love and want to make sure they're taken care of, and wondering and being curious of how I can help them or their family members. So my sphere.
I love it. Absolutely. That is such a huge piece. I think that everyone needs to include that sphere. I think it's amazing too that you cast a wide net and then you narrowed it down. right? I think that's kind of maturity in business. So as we look at these 6 core competencies, we'll all narrow them down. We'll cast that wide net and narrow it down. For me, honestly, Clark, somewhat similar, right? I've done everything. Our team still does, you name it, we do it. The 2 that I love most are actually open houses. I don't know why. I just love open houses. I love it when leads walk into the house to talk to me, right? And I love agent-to-agent referrals. Those 2 are like my 2 big pieces of lead generation. I love them, right? So we talk to people about buying and selling real estate daily. Number 2, the second thing lead generation includes is capturing accurate contact information. Okay, so that's name, phone number, email address. Those 3 are the big 3. We want their names, phone number, email address. We love their home address too. So I love home addresses because we can set people up on listing alerts for their own neighborhood. If we don't know what they're looking for, that's a huge way to get a lot of business really easily. And then, of course, any other information this person's willing to give you. So our group runs a lot of events and we all love dogs, okay? So we love dogs and craft beer. So we figured how to pair them. So we do an event called Barks and Brews. So when we're capturing these leads informations, one of the things actually on our consultation sheet is, do they have a pet? And most people think, oh, they're going to need a fence. No, they're going to need a special call and invitation to our Barks and Brews event, right? So you can customize your lead capture information based around some of the events or the marketing or the strategies or really just the things you're already involved with. You know, one of the guys on our team, he sponsors a kayak tournament. So kayak fishing. And so he is constantly lead generating around, hey, are you an outdoorsman? Can I get you engaged in this circle that we've created in this tournament that we sponsor? So that's another fun piece, a little pro tip in that. The third piece is we're going to convert leads to appointments. Okay. So the whole point of talking to people is to get them to move from, hey, we're having a conversation to, hey, we're selling your house or we're helping you buy a house. So we want to be able to turn those leads into appointments by finding active buyers and sellers. So we're going to find them, identify them, we're going to convert them to an appointment, that appointment preferably in person or Zoom, and then we're going to agree to work together. So the point of lead generating is to get to the appointment, and the point of your appointment is to get an agreement to buy or sell real estate. All right. So in the next 5 days, you're going to learn all kinds of ways to gain these leads. So I know I took way too long on that, but I can't stress it enough that the whole point about this is to actually get closed business. Otherwise, you're going to look creepy standing in a vacant house with a sign out front inviting people in. All right. Yeah, you laugh, but I mean, out there has done that before.
Well, that is it. I did find that to be a funny but one thing that I pulled out of that is that you're lead generating ways that you enjoy, right? Yeah, that's standing out very clearly.
How important is that? Now, like you said, Clark, we cast the wide net at first. We've got to figure out what we're good at, because early on it's about results. It's about how am I getting that paycheck, right? Over time, we get to narrow it down to lead generating in specific ways that either we're proficient at or we actually enjoy. And we're going to get to some of these myths, and actually we're on it right now. And one of these is, I think lead generation is really difficult. Ooh, I've thought that. I thought that for years, right? We're going to reframe all of these for us too. Number 2 is I don't have time to lead generate. Yeah. I mean, Clark, we were just talking. You recently become a MAPS coach and you said your calendar just blew up, right? Yeah. So much extra time to lead generate now. I mean, the more business you do, the less time we have, right? I mean, I think that's fair at some level. Number 3, I don't know what to say. Yep. There's some honesty here. I'm afraid of making mistakes. I teach this a lot. So one of the things I hear here is I feel like I'm afraid they're going to think I'm not an expert. Like, well, people don't necessarily look for experts. They look for professionals, right? On page 52 in Shift, I'm actually going to read it to you guys. Okay. It's one big paragraph, but we're going to read this together. And this is Gary's honest conversation with his exact fears. Can I read this?
Yeah, I love it.
Cool. From a distance, this is Gary speaking. From a distance, I thought lead generation was really difficult. But after I diligently applied myself to it, for a reasonable length of time, I came to see that it was actually quite easy and could even be fun. I was confusing effort with enjoyment. I also thought I was going to be too busy and not have the time to lead generate. However, as I focused on doing it every day, I discovered it wasn't an issue of having time as much as it was making time and protecting it. Oof, got me there. I'm so guilty of that one. Oh, geez. As I learned to manage my time better, I discovered I had all the time I needed. Then intimidation set in. I believed I couldn't lead generate because I didn't know what to do or say and was afraid of making mistakes. However, as I consistently got after it, I found that lead generation is nothing more than a set of tasks and skills that are well documented. It's important. Lead generation is nothing more than a set of tasks and skills that are well documented. I caught on that with practice and homework, these actions are easily understood and learned. I saw that on top of being a transaction, knowledge, and service business, our industry is really a script and dialogue skill-based business. I had to commit on getting onto the path of mastering these. I discovered that time on task over time was the simplest secret that helped me become very good. Whew. What are your thoughts, Clark?
Yeah, what I heard in that was a journey of growth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Gary Keller, like the real estate icon of our lifetimes and maybe multiple lifetimes here, he himself opened up around these four things. So let's reframe them. Let's reframe them as Gary was attempting to do. So this is that next slide. So Gary discovered how to kind of rework some of this limited thinking. So I want you guys to jot these down. You've got them here as well. But rather than lead generation is really difficult, Gary says he was confusing effort with enjoyment. Lead generation is actually really easy. Sometimes it's just not fun, right? So this is why we were talking about casting that big net, identifying either where we're really good or where it becomes fun, right? So that's a big piece. Our team loves taking our agents and pairing up with them and figuring out what they love. We have one girl who's a Jeeper. Jeepers are crazy. They just drive Jeeps with doors down. It's like 98 degrees and they sweat the whole time and they think it's awesome. I don't know. And then they put ducks. Have you seen the ducks?
I haven't, no.
The Jeep people, at least around here, they all put rubber ducks on each other's Jeep. I don't know. It's the weirdest thing ever.
I'll have to look for them now.
Oh, it's so weird. And at the same time, they love their Jeeps. So how do we encourage that agent to plug into the Jeep groups in the area, right? Whether it's through sponsorships or just active involvement. How do we get our people to meet more people on a common ground basis around something they love? It's a huge one. I love food. So I'm friends with a lot of restaurant owners in the area, right? What could be better? I walk into the restaurant, I say hi to them, they feed me great food, we chat, maybe we get business, right? Number 2, I don't have time to lead generate. This is a fun one. Let's reframe it. I had, past tense, I had an issue of making time to lead generate and protecting that time. Or we could now say I have an opportunity to make time to lead generate and protect that time. The reason we do that is we don't get closings without conversations, right? So that's the one truth inside of real estate is no one has ever closed a transaction without talking to someone else, whether that's a buyer or a seller, right? Okay. Number 3, I don't know what to say. I have the opportunity to get on the path of mastering dialogue skills needed in this business. Hey guys, by the way, MAPS coaching will help you with this. Huge plug for MAPS. Big plug for KWU. There are scripts all throughout KW Connect. There are scripting groups as a cohort inside of MAPS, I believe, called Role Play Rumble. You could jump on that. There's all kinds of opportunities to get on the path of mastering dialogue skills needed in this business. And I would bet that in your market center, there's someone who would go along on this journey with you, right? I know in our market center, we have constant script practice groups. Number 4, I'm afraid of making mistakes. Whew. Lead generation is nothing more than a set of tasks and skills that are well documented. It's funny, right? And Clark, you're going to appreciate this, being a regional tech trainer. The way we document things is to figure out what works and doesn't work, right?
Yep.
So we have to make mistakes in order to document what actually works.
Right. Yep.
So in a weird way, especially when we're lead generating, we should welcome mistakes. We should be extremely happy when we get told, no, absolutely not. Because then we can think back and go, what did I do wrong here?
Yeah, Wes, that's really good. We can even be in a spot to welcome mistakes, to look forward to those, because that means we are not where we were previously. We've taken a step forward, and we can get excited about that. And I love these, the actually bringing in truths to these myths. These can become our affirmations.
That's right.
So powerful how we're talking to ourselves.
That's right. You know, it's interesting. I'm gonna refer to the MREA here. It's a little off topic, so excuse me, Clark. I know you've got my timeline going here, but I just sent to our ownership group a section in the MREA, and it's about seller listings, right? And this is interesting. The one area where high achievers, and so we're talking about the 6th and 7th level, these massive teams. So the one area where the leadership allows themselves to actively step back into the day-to-day business. Now, this is particularly talking about 7th level. So this is where the rainmaker is completely out of the business mostly. The one area where they allow themselves actively to step back into the day-to-day business is when the game is on the line, is to lead generate by example. Meeting the monthly seller listing goal is the critical priority and should be your major preoccupation. Like, oh my goodness, at any phase in your career, you should be completely preoccupied with making sure that your lead generation efforts are producing the right amount of business. Right? I'm going to go back again. I got to read another one. It's just too good. This red book, man, I'm telling you.
It's full of goodies.
The biggest challenge you will face building your sales business to a high level is continuing to focus on lead generation, no matter how many leads you have or how busy you become. Right? It doesn't stop. It's in our DNA. We're not just salespeople. We are running a business that is fueled by relationships. So every single day, the one largest discipline that if we could master, we should, is lead generation. And that's what this slide is about right here. So lead generation being that number one key to be successful in real estate, it really has very little to do with how good you are at selling houses. If no one knows what you do, they won't feel connected to you in any way, let alone respond to a call to action, right? So, and this was something that I was early on really embarrassed about. I started real estate at 21 years old. So I was licensed at 21. There's not a lot of people who want to work with a 21-year-old. I thought. I was very wrong. The first 6 months of my business, I had maybe 1 or 2 closings, maybe, right? But then months 6 to 12, I had 36 closings. What's crazy is I attended a class about 4 months in that was taught by a Mr. Gene Rivers, and it was a KWU course called Lead Generation, 36-12-3, working with Mets. So this is a course that I've committed myself to teach as well. So I attended that course, and he reframed all of this. It's not about your expertise. It's about people knowing that you provide a valuable service, right? So if they feel connected to you, or there's any level of exchange or trust, that call to action that you put out there, whether it's through a call, a text, a Facebook post, whatever it is, you've already got a leg up on your competition because it's about them knowing you're in the business and knowing you. That's why we love Sphere, right, Clark? That's why we love working with the people who know and love us.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Okay, so I've got great news. We have 2 components to lead generation that we're going to focus on. The first is a sphere of influence. So sphere as in like a circle, orb, whatever you want to call it, right? These are the people in our sphere who know us and we know them. Okay, so I would probably bet that if everyone pulled up their cell phone, they could download their contacts and quickly have 1,000 people in a sphere of influence, right? We already have a database we carry around. I guarantee it's there. In fact, rainmakers, when you're hiring, 2 things to look out for. It's another pro tip. Number 1, how many local contacts does that real estate agent or that ISA or whatever this lead generation role you're looking for, how many local contacts are in their cell phone that they're willing to call today? That's a big question. If it's 100, that could point to something. If it's 2,000, hey, there you go. There's 2,000 sphere leads. We love sphere leads. So the first is that sphere of influence, and the second is a database. Clark, you're a regional tech trainer. What is a database? Why is it so important?
Oh my goodness, your database, you're getting me going here. Your database is your business. It really truly is. If you intend to stay in business for a lengthy amount of time, making this a career, that's where it houses. That's your relationships in a box, a virtual box that you have housed. So it's everything about your business.
Yeah. I mean, and we get an amazing free one here at Keller Williams as well.
Yep. Oh yeah, we do. Yes. And if you're looking for something that's already no cost to you, yes, Command. It has everything that you need to begin growing your database. Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly right. When I started as a new agent, Keller Williams was still on the E-Edge system. I don't know, Clark, if you remember E-Edge, but it was absolutely miserable. Okay. But with that being said, it still allowed me to store my content, all my names, my phone numbers, my email addresses, home addresses. It allowed me also to set up marketing plans, right? So a lot of times people get caught up in building out this perfect database. When I look back on my early years, it wasn't about what database I used. It was about that I used a database, right? Okay, so we've talked about sphere of influence as the number 1 tool, and the second tool is going to be our database. But the question is, how do we then use both of those tools to access our group, our sphere of influence, to convert them to ready, willing, and able buyers or sellers? That answer is most likely it's going to be through your phone, right? I mean, I said earlier that there hasn't ever been a transaction inside of real estate without some version of a conversation. So this phone is actually the one thing that tends to link people from lead to appointment. That's why we see big teams running massive ISA groups. People who literally are real estate agents who are licensed. They could hold a full phone consultation if they wanted to, and their entire job is focused around calling and nurturing leads, right? The phone is entirely the most important piece of our business. So what we're going to do next then is we're going to say, okay, we understand sphere, we understand database. Now we're going to try to calculate our income opportunity based on this sphere. Sound good?
Yeah, this is fun exercise. Get ready, y'all. This is good.
Yeah, this looks like your passion here. You got more excited about this than I did, and I'm the one teaching. I love it. All right. So first of all, I need you guys to at least know your average transaction amount, whether that's sold volume or commission. In this case, we're going to use $5,000, which is probably going to be low. Like, if we're just being honest, I'm in Springfield, Missouri, and our average commission is more than that. So $5,000, I'm going to divide that by 3%, ends up in $166,000. So we're being really conservative. I would probably argue that you're going to end up being more like 10,000, right? I think average price in the nation's around 350 right now. But for the sake of this and for the example, we're going to use 250. So I want you guys to follow along with me. And I want you to plug in these numbers for you. So first of all, you're going to change the commission on the slide to be the average commission in your market, or whatever the income opportunity is that you have for a single transaction. Okay. You can also just follow through with this with me, but I love it when people do it for themselves. The second is I want everyone to get out their handy dandy cell phones. I feel like Blue's Clues, the handy dandy notebook. Man, did I just date myself there? I have 2 kids.
A little bit.
2 little girls. Okay. I want us to go to our contacts, and I want you to scroll down to the bottom. See if you can see this. Scroll down to the bottom. Can you see my phone there? Oh, very bottom of your contacts, there's a number.
Yeah.
Okay.
1545 I see for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I have 1,542 contacts. Okay. You're going to take that number, and I want you to put that in A, number of contacts and phone. Okay. We're tracking. We got 1 down. B, According to the National Association of Realtors, the typical person moves every 8 years. I would argue in lower price point markets with great economies, like a Springfield, Missouri, that's going to be a little bit more rapid. I think we're seeing more like 4 to 5 years right now. Regardless, for the exercise, let's go off NAR stats. So 8 years. According to the 2020 census, the home ownership rate in the U.S. is 64.8%. So if we assume that 64.8% of your database is a homeowner, and they'll move every 8 years, that means about 8.1%, or as we see in line B, 0.018, of your database will buy, sell, or buy and sell a home every 8 years. Okay. So let's use these numbers to figure out how many you already know who are going to buy or sell this year. So to do that, multiply your contacts, line A, by the number of contacts in your database by 0.018, and the result, go ahead and put that on line B. So here we did 250 times 0.018, and we rounded that to 20. We like to round down to be conservative. So if you ended up at 20.25, let's round it down to 20. Okay. So in this case, this person had 250 contacts, and potentially 20 of them are going to transact this year. That's a ton. Okay. So let's go further. Let's assume that all of the people in your SOI, 10% of them also refer you a client, which that is very possible, right? Our lead generation calls aren't just for, hey, Clark, do you want to buy or sell? It's, hey, do you know anyone else who might be interested in my services as a real estate agent? Okay. So that 10% number is going to be a number of contacts in the phone times 10% or 0.1. In our example here, it generates 25 potential referrals. So then we're going to take our potential closing opportunity from contacts in B and our potential referrals from the database in C. We're going to add those together. So in this case, we added 20 and 25 to get 45. Okay. Now, E is where things get a little dicey per market, right? So if you're in Northwest Arkansas, you're going to have a much higher price point than maybe a Joplin, Missouri. No offense in Joplin. I love you, Joplin. But we're going to take our average commission from a closing. And in this case, we've indicated 5,000. I think more realistically, it'll probably be between 7,500 and 10,000. But we're going to take 45 times our 5,000 for the example. And that's going to give us an income opportunity of 225,000. Clark, did you do that for yourself?
I did, yes. Well, not using that average commission, the average commission for our team and market. Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
This is thinking big, and I trust that everybody who's doing this right now is probably feeling the same way that I do. 2.5 million.
Ooh, 2.5
million and $10, like just above 2.5.
Yeah, the $10 is important. That can get you like a third of a Starbucks now.
All right.
It's incredible how much value sits in the people we know and love, right? Mm-hmm. So Clark, earlier when we were dialoguing about what lead sources we like, you had mentioned you love the people you know and love. Yeah. There's a good chance they're in your phone, right? Mm-hmm. And it's so funny because I am the most guilty of this, but a lot of times I'm not contacting those people in my phone, right? I'm contacting like some other lead source, or I'm contacting a subset of the people in my phone, right? It's pretty interesting. It's a little gut check for me. As I teach this stuff, I just find out how terrible I really am. That's the best part.
Right. Well, all right. Yeah, what I was going to say, if you're in the market center, maybe shout that out, what your number is, and share that there. But also in the comments, put that in there for sure. We'd love to be able to see that. So
yeah, this is a great opportunity to turn to your neighbor and say, "Hey, we're going to be millionaires." Right?
That's cool. I like that.
All right. If you guys have questions about this exercise, feel free to reach out to me or Clark. My email is my name. It's just weslitton@kw.com. So feel free to reach out. I'm happy to rework some of this and talk to you about your lead generation opportunity. This is my passion. So inside of this journey that we're going on with KWU, this is my passion. I love teaching this stuff. And I think that there's so much untapped potential in just our phones, honestly, or our Facebooks. Oh my gosh, if you looked at Facebook, imagine if you did this exercise with Facebook friends.
Yeah, that's a good point, Wes. I mean, if for whatever reason, say you don't have that many contacts in your phone and maybe you're unhappy with that number. I'm not going to make any assumptions. I did make the assumption we'd probably be blown away like, wow, is this really an opportunity? Stats show us yes. Yeah. If that number's lower, compare your phone to your Facebook friends. Are those matched up? They're still relationships.
Exactly. I mean, Facebook's just a big database, right? It's a list of people that you have this social connection with, but you have a friends list, and that's a database. So, add me to it, and I'll be in your database, and then I'll invest in duplexes or self-storage facilities in your market. Okay, let's translate this into kind of our next section here. So your SOI being your database. So we've kind of talked about these two things in isolation, what a sphere of influence is, and then what a database is. Okay, we're now going to talk about them as one. We need our sphere of influence to be our database. Okay, so we already know how many people we have on your phone. We already know how many potential sales and how much money that translates into. That contact list really needs to be exported out of your phone and dropped into your database. Your market center tech trainer can help you with this. There's probably instructional videos out there somewhere about how to do this. If you have an iPhone, it's super easy. You just log into your iCloud on your computer and you can export as vCard. There is vCard converters online for free. You plug it in, you convert it to what's called a CSV file. And this is getting a little bit techie. Clark's following. But that CSV file can just be directly uploaded or right into Command. Yeah. Super simple. Super simple. Okay.
Now, we'll do another plug there, Wes. So just as about 3 weeks ago, we have a new import wizard that makes this even easier. So no transferring any data from one spreadsheet to another. Yeah, no reason, even less obstacles to get those phone contacts in Command.
Look at that. Man, they did not have that when I started, let me tell you. And it was super hard to export your contacts from an iPhone back when I started. Who am I kidding? They didn't even have iPhones when I started. All right. So your contact list is your database. Your social media is another potential database. We just chatted about that. If you're going to be in a relationship with your contacts in a professional sense, which now as real estate agents, there's no delineation between personal and professional. We kind of need to understand that. We need to view ourselves a little bit more holistically. There's not like professional Wes over here and then like personal Wes over here. What we do, especially in terms of social media, is there needs to be a healthy blend, right? There needs to be a fact that, hey, I'm a real human being. I have kids. I enjoy the town I live in, and we're doing business here. But then also there has to be this other professional side that says, I want your business. Here are the homes that we've listed, right? So we're going to work this together, by the way. But coming back, we need to have these contacts organized in an accessible and smart database. We've talked about Command a lot. Your phone is smart, but your database is going to give you a lot of manipulation around the data and how to communicate with it that your phone can't do. So today we're going to touch a little bit on feeding that database. And then next section, we're going to make sure that database is what we call smart database. It's working. It's the tool is generating income opportunities for you. So now you have an SOI, you have the database plugged in, right? You've already been generating leads from that database by communicating with it strategically. Now we need to look at and say, okay, how have we already been lead generating? In other words, we've got SOI, we've got database. How are we getting more people into our database? Clark, I think this one tees it up for you. I know you've got the instructor manual there. How are Ignite attendees right now focusing on adding leads to their database?
Yeah, absolutely. We briefly touched on it earlier. It's our daily success system, right? So the goal is 10 conversations a day, 10 relationships on those. Yeah.
That's exactly right. So 10 conversations a day is going to build a massive database over time, like absolutely massive database over time. If you've ever taken Bold, you know that it's 20 a day, 20 conversations. Well, that was, I guess, maybe old school Bold. I haven't done the new one yet. But man, old school Bold was hard. You had your little paper, you wrote them down, you turned it in. You either got your sticker on the chart or you didn't, right? Sometimes you had a timeout if you didn't do it appropriately. But really, at the end of the day, what it was about was creating a discipline and a pattern or a habit around lead generating. So these daily success systems are massive, and they can carry you decades into your career, right? They used to play a Bold video or a video in Bold of Gina Ron, and he had taken Bold like 20 times or something ridiculous, right? But he kept saying, it's just driving this habit of lead generating into me. Gina Ron is one of the best lead generators I know. I love hopping on calls with him. He's the one that helped build out our team's mailing campaign. Massive opportunity right here. Let's look at next. Next is asking for ahas. Clark, let's pause here just for a second. what are your ahas being the lead generator for your business? And then I'll share mine as well, even though I've kind of been doing it as we go.
Yeah. For me, and even tapping back when I was a first agent, we know it works, right? So asking yourself what's preventing from doing it. No, it's between our either our mind, our mindset. And so asking a question like, hey, what are those fears? And how can I shift that mindset? Because it can creep in if it's not a habit, something we're looking for. My aha is, okay, which one of those myths like was staring back at me? I did. I just heard me. I was like, oh, that's it. And whatever truth we brought into that reality, that misunderstanding,
Yeah.
I need to revisit that daily,
Mhm.
multiple times a day, and make that my affirmation of my truth in that.
That's good.
So, yeah, whether it's visually putting it somewhere that I see on my monitor, heck, maybe a screensaver on my phone, background. A lot of different ways, or you're writing down however you need to have affirmation, seeing it, revisiting it. Yeah, that's.
Man, I'm telling you, that is huge. Reframing the way we think about some of these things that are potential obstacles in our business, that is actually what allows us to overcome them, right? Until we understand that there are tools, there's systems, or there's little life hacks like changing your mindset by it, like you said, a sticky note or some of these small things. A lot of times we get stuck there. But that reframing, I keep using that idea, like we're just looking at it from a different angle, or we're retraining our brain to not view it as an obstacle, but as an opportunity. It's huge. It's huge. The other one for me that got me, and this was in preparation. This morning I was flipping through the MREA again because there's just so much good stuff in here, guys. It's just incredible. But here we go. I am guilty, and our team is a little bit guilty of being behind goal this year. So, as I'm reading, here's what I read this morning. The truth is that when our actions are not focused on the 20% that matters, being lead generation, the results we want usually don't show up. Duh, Wes, like you know this, okay? Here's the next thing. Doing a lot of things is never the substitute for doing the right thing. Oh, that one got me. Right? So often in lead generation, we look at let's add lead sources. Oh, that lead source isn't producing. Let's just do more. But it's not doing a multitude of things that is what's helpful. It's actually doing one thing really, really well.
Plus, man, the transparency there is refreshing, and appreciate you sharing that. That's good.
Yeah, painful and refreshing. All right, let's move on, guys. So now that we've begun lead generating, right? We're already doing our success systems. You have a database now. We've talked about that. You have Command. Your Market Center can help set that up for you. There's a million helpful videos online. Clark is our resident Command expert. You also have an SOI. We talked about that. All those people in our phone, all the people that we know and love us. Let's dig into the most important model of your business. That's the lead generation model. So we can't overestimate the importance of lead generation. We keep just harping on how important it is and how basic and how all these things it is to our business and foundational. The first thing, though, is that if you give up doing it yourself and start a team and you leverage it off, that's not actually going to be the way successful. You'll find success in the long run, right? So if you think about it today, all the largest teams across the nation, from expansion teams to just large local organizations, all of their leaders and ownership groups are continuing to lead generate. We're learning today that the foundation for the million, multi-million, even honestly at this point, almost billion-dollar businesses is that there's lead generation effort from the top down, right? The top down. This is also why every single day that time becomes important because it actually won't leave, right? The only reason lead generation would leave your calendar is if you're not doing it, right? So as you grow, that time actually becomes more and more important. You start to niche down like we've talked about. These are my lead sources. This is what and who I'm lead generating with. So this is also why having that time each day to complete those daily success systems, along with your peers and any facilitators in your market center, is really important. Like, use that time to talk about the successes you had there. So let's go to that lead generation and database model here. So let's flip it over to the participant guide. You'll see this awesome cylinder bucket with arrows and fun little tiny words on it that I honestly can't read on my screen right now. So as you've learned, Keller Williams not only has a model for everything, but they have the best model for everything. So it makes sense that there's going to be an amazing model for lead generation. Okay. So it looks really complicated. We're going to walk through this. It's really not that complicated. The biggest thing, again, coming back, is that these aren't leads. These are people. These are relationships. So this is our relationship management. Okay. So what we're going to do here is we're going to look at the fact that the more relationships you have, the more business you're going to get. This model is going to walk us through that, how we stay in relationship with them, how we become that real estate professional of choice to help them buy or sell. So let's look here. Number one, lead capture. Okay. Super straightforward. There's really only two types of lead capture. We're going to get to those next, but they're prospecting and marketing, right? So it's simply about getting people into your database. So Clark, just to clarify, what is the difference between prospecting and marketing?
Yeah, prospecting is active live conversations, right? Whether with your current sphere to grow that database, with friends and family they know, you're engaging in conversation with them. And yes, definitely, absolutely, phone calls, door knocking, great text message that engage people, that respond well in that. It's those conversations that lead to leads.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. There's going back to MREA here, because you can't go wrong with it. There's a wonderful chart on one of these pages that I'm going to find that I earmarked. Page 138 in the MREA. I would encourage you guys to look at this thing. It's the difference between prospecting and marketing. And it has a massive list. On there of all kinds of different activities you can do. So like Clark said, prospecting is very proactive and it's direct. So if Clark's in my SOI and I call Clark, that's going to be considered a prospecting activity, right? If I send a direct mail campaign and I happen to hit Clark's neighborhood and Clark calls me, that's going to be a marketing activity, right? So one way to think about it is prospecting tends to be one-to-one and marketing tends to be one-to-many. And in that one-to-many, there's generally a call to action. I'm going to give you guys one of the West Litton pro tips. If you guys ever take one of my regional courses on the lead generation, the KW 3612-3 class, this is one of the ones I love. It's a text message marketing. I do it all the time, but it feels like prospecting. So the most effective marketing feels like prospecting, okay? From the consumer, the receiver standpoint. I will take my 10 contacts and I'm going to text them all, hey, do you want to grab coffee? Right? Super simple. Or, hey, do you want to have lunch today? Typically, no one responds. Or they say, I'm busy, because I usually send it at like 11:30, right? But if you think about it, receiving that message not only one engages the conversation, but it feels one-to-one, right? Of course, be TCPA compliant, all of those things, right? Keep it inside the lines. But I love to use little tricks like that to go ahead and allow myself to communicate in mass in a meaningful way. Who doesn't want an invitation to lunch? They've been thought of, right? It shows that I want to spend time with them. And I will if they respond. If they do respond, say, yeah, I'm ready and I'm actually booked, I'm going to say, I just had something come up. Let's rebook, right? It's very simple. So when we look at it, we've got these two big ways to feed, number two, our database. You can't have enough leads. I cannot emphasize this enough. You can have too little leads. There is such thing as having not enough. There is not such thing as having too many leads. You can have too much lead expense in cost in buying leads, but you can't have too many leads themselves. Now, Clark, just some creativity here. Let's say you're an individual agent and you have too many leads. What could you do with some of those leads if you can't service them?
Oh my goodness. Well, that is a possibly tap on the shoulder to identify talent somebody you're aligned with to grow with, or create an opportunity for someone else. Meaning grow your team. It could be a buyer's agent. It could be a licensed admin.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. When I hired my first licensed admin, her name's Samantha Davis. She's a total and complete rock star. She changed our world. We doubled our transaction count that year. I mean, a true double. Like we went from double digits to triple digits on one hire. You know, the amount of leverage she provided in taking things off my plate, huge. One of the other ones that I love, I mean, Clark, what does OpCity charge in your market?
OpCity, it'll be anywhere, depending on the program, 35 to 38%.
Okay.
Think
about that. 38%. And these agents are crazy. This lead comes in, it bings everyone's phone, and it's just this mad rush to accept the lead, right? It could be like $55,000 trailer that got burnt last weekend, and you're like, I need it, right? And you're going to pay 38% on it. You're like, what the heck? Mm-hmm. Think about what you could do if you had too many leads in your database. Could you actually refer some of those out at a heavier price point inside your own market? Well, yeah, but then I might lose the long-term nurture. What if you don't? What if you go to that agent and you frame the relationship as almost like an assistant relationship, right? Your client can still retain you, right? Although you're going to just pay out a large referral to the other. There's all kinds of creativity we can do if we have too many leads. But if we have too little leads, that's a hard place to be, right? I tell the story whenever I teach, specifically around lead generation. We get to this point. It's the first time in my career, first year, I was living in another town. I was living in Joplin, selling real estate in Springfield. It's about 50 minutes away. So just bad idea in general, but I knew I wanted to live in Springfield where my family was, but my wife and I were in Joplin as she taught at the high school there. And so I was not only running a small business in Joplin, non-real estate related, but then traveling to Springfield to sell real estate. So to go on appointments, to lead generate, to do open house. It was a crazy year in our lives. So that was the year that, again, 4 months in, took the lead generation course. 6 months in, everything exploded, and we closed 36 transactions alone, no help whatsoever, 36 transactions at the end of that year. Well, amidst those 36 transactions toward the end of the year, I developed shingles, which, at the age I was, 21, 22, I really shouldn't have developed shingles. So stress-induced shingles, and it took over about the side of my body. That was the same month that we had our first child. Her name's Tennyson. She's incredible. She's 5 now, but had our first child. So I'm in the pressure cooker of my wife's a teacher, which teachers know that's not an easy job. Mm-hmm. We're having our first child. I have more business than I could ever imagine. Stressed out of my mind. I have a panic attack behind the wheel of my truck. Mm-hmm. So this is not good. Ironically, right in front of our office on Battlefield Road, back at the old building. And I put that truck up on the sidewalk. The team leader was in the parking lot. He ran out to me, just not knowing it was me, knocked on the window. Are you okay? I was fine. The truck wasn't hurt. I stopped fine. We were all good. But I had a full-blown panic attack, first one I had ever had. And you know what he said to me? He said, it's time to hire an assistant. I was like, thanks a lot. No, are you okay? Nothing. Just, time to hire an assistant. Right? Oh, and so when you think about it, you're absolutely right, Clark. We can hire too soon. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times we hire when we aren't doing our 20% tasks, right? We do the 20% tasks, and lead generation is just not one that you as the rainmaker will ever fully get away from, right? So yeah, great point there. We're not going to leverage these additional leads or opportunities until we are already exhausted. I would not encourage you to go to the point of a panic attack. And yet that's what it took me personally. Let's move on, guys. Number 2. Oh, wait, no, we're going prospecting versus marketing again. So we've already talked about this a lot. But let's break it down a little bit. Prospecting right away, super low cost. It yields a quantity of leads, in which turns gives you quality of leads. So one of the reasons we don't like prospecting is we have to call a lot of people, right? It might take 100 calls to get one yes. So that might mean 99 no's or 99 not yets, okay? Number 3, it establishes personal relationship. This is why we never get away from it, right? Because leads are people, and we want personal relationships with people. That's how business grows. It also is how lead generation becomes fun. I don't know about you guys, but I have way more fun meeting someone in person, showing them a home, or selling their home than I do just calling them on the phone. However, it starts with that initial relationship built on the phone a lot of times. Number 4, it keeps you in direct contact with the market at the moment. As we grow, and Clark, you can probably attest to this, you start coaching people, you start leading, you start teaching. Sometimes you can actually get disconnected from the market, right? If you're actively prospecting, you will get the exact details of what these people are feeling and thinking and saying and what people are saying to them about the market, right? The last one is it increases your confidence and skill. The more you prospect, the better you become at prospecting. It also allows you the mastery of the scripts, the dialogues, the verbiage of real estate. I can't underestimate that. Looking at our triangle here, of course, immediate results. If I cold call Clark, Clark's ready to go. Boom, we're setting an appointment right there. So if I would ask you, Clark, you need to get one listing appointment today, go, what would you do?
One listing appointment a day? Well, if there's an opportunity for expires, yeah, expires, FSBOs would probably be the route to go.
Bingo.
If there's a yeah.
Yeah, so you're going to go ahead and prospect someone who's raised their hand before and said, hey, I'm interested in selling my home, right? That's absolutely right. So when we have these problems in our business, a lot of times they're lead generation problems, right? They're actually not income problems or personnel problems. There's not a lot of things that 10 new listings can't fix, right? Especially in this market. But when we look at it, if I had to have one listing in the next 3 hours, I would be picking up the phone, calling one-to-one motivated leads like expireds, for sale by owners, past open house visitors, people in your database that have sold before, that kind of thing, right? Marketing is going to be the opposite. That's going to be an attraction game, right? So that's why we have the magnifying glass on the bottom. We got the time-intensive, proactive, immediate results. But then we go to the marketing. We got this awesome magnet. And I love marketing. That's where my passion lies, because I love it when my phone rings instead of me having to ring their phone. Now, do I still ring their phone? You better believe it. But I love the marketing. But it's long-term results. You don't just send out one batch of mail and expect that your business is fixed overnight. You create a mailing campaign, right? It's passive. So it is not me picking up the phone and one-to-one dialing. A lot of times it's me creating some version of a campaign, whether that be radio, TV, billboard, whatever, and sending that out into the world with a call to action and having that come back, right? And lastly, a lot of times it's money intensive. Mass marketing a lot of times takes money. One of the beauties about Command is there's some strategic partnerships in there that allow you to reduce that cost. So please use them. Our team still uses a lot of the advertising through Command. And yet, when you really start to do marketing in mass, it does become a little bit more expensive. Anything to add there?
Yeah, I think we're all naturally drawn to passive and allow the easy button. But yeah, there's essentially a cost of that lead with revenue. If you're just getting started off, maybe not spend one marketing dollar until that first paycheck comes. Prospect until on the cheap. Yeah, ball out on a budget first before you go crazy and ball out on a marketing budget. So.
That's exactly right. Yeah, we're going to make sure that we're leading with revenue. Don't spend the dollar you don't have, right? A lot of times, this might be pushing the envelope a little bit too far. So Clark, just cut me off and end the video here if you need to. But a lot of times our personal financial habits flow into our business financial habits. Yeah. So when we talk about marketing being money intensive, and Clark, you just mentioned budgets, a lot of times we find that these teams who get out of whack in budget, they get out of whack in budget because in their personal lives, they're out of whack in budget, right? I like to call them spending plans. I hate the word budget. So does your spending plan allow you to spend on marketing, right? Does your spending plan in your life allow you to buy that new vehicle? So as we look at our spending plans, yes, marketing is money intensive, and yet it can bring it to you. So let me walk through this next kind of verbiage around this. First of all, the market, your preferences, your budget, and your goals are going to dictate what you do. So we have 4 things there: the market, your preferences, your budget, and your goals. Okay. Very, very important. And I would argue that all of those need to talk together. So when you do your annual business planning clinic, it becomes really important to business plan around what is the market doing? Are we speeding up, slowing down, interest rates up, interest rates down, price points, average days on market, all that. Your preferences. Clark, what do you like to do? Let's spend the money around the things that you like to do, right? If you're telling me, hey, Wes, go buy, I don't know, billboards, I'm going to hate it. I don't want my face on anything. I hate that my face is on the website. I'd rather be in the background creating the one-to-one relationships. I like speaking to a lot of people. I don't like speaking one-on-one typically. So I'm just different, but I'm going to find the things that work for me and that I like to do. And then your budget, right? Do you have money in your business checking account that you can use for business expenses? Or are we just siphoning all of it off because we have issues over in our personal finances? It's a big piece. And then lastly, your goals, right? If you have big goals, it's going to take big lead generation efforts, both in prospecting and in marketing, right? When we start, we tend to be prospecting based and marketing enhanced. And then as we grow, that tends to change a little bit. We become marketing based and prospecting enhanced. The thing is, you don't ever get away from one or the other. And when you do, that's when you kind of find yourself out of balance. Okay, let's go back. Top agents are going to track their most productive lead sources. Pretty straightforward. We've talked about sphere of influence a lot. We've mentioned repeat business, referrals, and then we're seeing a ton of online advertising, right? But we're also seeing a lot of offline advertising. That's direct mail, that's yard signs. This 2022 of getting back to the basics is huge. We send so many handwritten notes every single month. I mean, thousands of dollars of handwritten notes to, in a marketing effort, to whole neighborhoods, to whole zip codes, to past clients, to whatever it is. We love the handwritten note. No single approach or method is going to bring you all the leads you need. It's just not, right? At some level, you can just work your sphere. And if you're satisfied with just working your sphere, great. That's the life that you design and you want. Amazing. Take it. And at the same time, a blended approach tends to work best so that you're not reliant specifically on that one source. Okay. A lot of businesses are the same way. Like imagine if you as a business owner only took listings, right? I only do listings. I don't do buyers. Well, you're going to lose with people who need to list and buy, right? The next agent's going to come in and say, oh, I'll help you list and buy. And they're going to be like, okay, well, we'll work with Clark. He's way better than Wes, who only lists houses, right? So that blended approach is going to be the same way. We want a balanced lead generation effort. So whether that's Facebook leads, Google leads, events. I love events. Events are such a great way to connect with your sphere and invite new people. Again, direct mail, signage, whatever it might be. Use that blended approach. You'll always offer some form of value in exchange for information. That information's the thing that you need to keep the relationship going, right? The name, the phone number, the email. That's why when we buy Google leads or PPC leads, what we get in return a lot of times is name, phone number, email address, right? At that point, it's our responsibility to connect with the lead. In Ignite, we're going to focus mainly on prospecting. If we're being frank, Ignite is going to really be the thing that boosts an agent's career. And the reason we're going to focus on prospecting is because these three things, the time intensity is there. A lot of times as a new agent, you've got more time than maybe someone who's running a large team. Now, I still think there's an argument to be made there. Regardless, we're going to focus on prospecting. It is proactive. So it's something that you're going to get up and do, and it gets you immediate results. And that's super important for us. Prospecting is less expensive. We got to remember that. So even if we want to focus prospecting our SOI, let's do it, right? You don't have to go up FSBOs and expireds if you're not ready for that. That time's going to come in later sessions. All right, database. All right. This is Clark's specialty. I might as well just log out here. The database is just this digital container that holds all the information, your leads, your contacts, right? So anytime you've generated a lead, that needs to go direct into your database. That's why a lot of us use this more as a database than we do our actual databases, right? So one of the best things you can do is consistently download your contact list and compare it to what's already in your database. A VA is very inexpensive and they can do that. Or you can do it as an exercise to make sure that the people's contact information you're generating on your phone is flowing into your database. We suggest that you use Command because Command's incredibly cost efficient. Super, super cost efficient. In fact, in the new Command app, you can just add them right there into the app. You don't actually have to go to your contacts, which we all tend to do in our phone, add people there. What if you started opening your CRM, your database app, and just plugging them right in? It's a big deal. On that app, you can even start launching them on smart plans too, which is crazy cool. The smart database is going to allow you to have planned and meaningful communication with those in it. So this database allows you to have that planned and consistent communication with the people in it. It keeps you in that relationship. So if you kind of think about it, this is why we call it the data bank. It's got that plan. The wheels are constantly turning in there so that it produces closings for you. Okay, it generates money for you. There's nothing more valuable in your business than this data bank. Again, leads come in, we form a relationship with them, we have ongoing contact with them, and that strengthens the existing relationship. And then we're going to go down to cultivate contacts for conversion. So this is where it's really fun. This is that relationship management piece. We use we use terminology of leads and contacts as a way to categorize people, right? So a lead is just anyone who are in the right to have a one-way conversation with, right? A contact is when you've held a two-way conversation. So in old school language, we used to call this a met, right? Well, so the question would be, how would you determine who a met is? And the answer is, well, who would you not count as a met, right? Like, oh, well, someone I haven't ever talked to. Like, okay, great. So the person you've never talked to is going to be the lead. The person that you had two-way conversation with is going to be a contact. Clark, let me ask you this.
Yep.
Does Facebook Messenger count to move someone from lead to contact?
Oh, that's a great question. A lot of opinions on it. Now, it depends on your comfort level. I would say if you connect and have a meaningful conversation, and then for me, I think a question in this is when you feel connected. One standard that we have within our team is, okay, from that conversation, and if they know me, and being in real estate, if they associate me with real estate and they think of real estate, they think of me. If I'm confident of that, okay, they're not a lead, they're a contact for me. So in my world, yeah, I get to connect with some amazing past students of being an educator for 10 years, and we have great conversations and evolve in the business to best serve them. So yeah, I would say yes.
Yeah, I completely agree. I can't ever get this word out appropriately, but substantive. Of substance, whatever that word is, substantive. If the conversation is substantive, right? At that point, we can say, okay, we've moved that from a lead to a contact. And I don't care what medium it is anymore. We had a guy whose first 2 months, he's in our office, not my Veris Network office, but our Keller Williams Springfield office. In his first 2 months, he had connected over Bumble with a lady who happened to be married. Nothing ended up happening with them. And yet she ended up in divorce. She sold the house that they lived in and then helped both of them buy new houses, right? So as crazy as this is, any medium can now form a meaningful two-way street. It's crazy. I would have never thought that real estate would have gotten here. My mom was an agent, okay? This was like cell phones were in a bag days, right? So she was a real estate agent. And I remember as a kid, it was still so rudimentary that she would give me a piece of paper to go. It was right across, the MLS board was right across the street from my school. And I would walk across after school to the MLS board, and I would have them copy the listing and they would put it in the binder for my mom. And then when agents needed to show a house or search for a house, they'd show up and start looking through the binder to find the house. It's crazy, right? Now we've got a million mediums. Everything from the psycho dating apps, like I've mentioned, to Twitter, to Facebook, to everything, right? I still use text at a high level. I think text is one of the most underrated forms of communication. Okay, we've talked about all kinds of different leads, but these leads are just people who've shown interest, right? And the contact is when we've had that valuable two-way real estate conversation. Okay. We're going to go ahead and move to this next piece on the relationship management. Once you have a lead, you create that relationship, you want to sustain and strengthen that relationship. So it doesn't just end once you've had that good conversation. It's at this point that we've introduced a relationship, and now we have this whole other section next on follow-up, right? So we're in lead generation, then you're going to move to follow-up later on. It's that follow-up segment that's going to help you cultivate for conversion. Because a lot of times that first conversation doesn't get you the appointment, but that doesn't mean that it's a bad lead. Again, there's no bad leads because leads are people, right? All right, so we're going to move on here. When we say conversion, we want to move them from lead to contact. Here's all kinds of great ways. This is just a basic graphic here for you to look at, but we can call them email, text message, face-to-face, KW app, handwritten communication, you name it, right? I've mentioned these handwritten mailers. We have a service that does them for them. It's Ballpoint. The owner found out that we were running this, and he offered a discount code to everyone. So 10% off a Ballpoint mailer. So literally Ballpoint like the pen, Ballpoint marketing. And then the discount code is Keller10. So literally Keller like Keller Williams. And then the number 10, 10. So Keller10. And that way you get 10% off any order. So he was like, oh my gosh, send this. I know a few of our MAPS coaches have been using it and a lot of their clients too. So we use it at a high level in ours. I love the handwritten notes. Again, we're sending thousands of dollars worth of them each month. But these coordinated campaigns in this follow-up stage is going to be a mixture of these different things. Phone calls, emails, text messages, face-to-face meetings. The KW app is going to be a great way for listing searches and updates, your newsletters, things like that. And then, of course, handwritten communication. The one I'm going to bring us all the way back to is that first one, that's phone call. We cannot neglect the phone call. I don't care who we are, how great we are, on which dating app. The phone call is always going to be extremely important. Smart plans in KW Command, fantastic. Opportunities, you can leverage opportunities with triggers to be able to send emails and communication. We want to look at some automation. That's the idea behind the database, the digital database. And Clark, you can actually talk to me a little bit more about this, but automation is super important. Can you tell us why, or give us some examples of times it's worked for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, automation allows you to have that more meaningful conversation. Automation itself, not at least in this present day, maybe possibly when we have more AI to get smarter, and we're starting to see that. But presently, use that leverage of automation to engage, right? So I love the text messages that you had mentioned before of, hey, would you be available for coffee? So you can make that automation through command, and I'm sure other technologies as well. But as you said, that's a trigger, an automatic trigger to have a more meaningful conversation. Okay?
Yeah.
So yeah, for us, as we grow our database through Facebook ads in command, there's a lot of automation. They come in as a lead. They're automatically put on a smart plan. An automatic text goes out. An automatic email comes out. There is a task still in that smart plan that tells us make the call after that goes out. So
that's right. That's right. Yeah, we can't ever neglect that call. It's so important. The automation's a wonderful way to get some of these online lead sources to kind of raise their hand, right? So let's say in a day you got 10 new PPC leads, but one of them responded to your text message. Well, who do you think is going to get the first call, right? They've moved themselves closer to the I'm a client stage, right? So we love automation for that. And a lot of CRMs, including Command, they'll track these automations and they'll alert you if there's any communication or interaction with it. Did they open the email? Did they click on something? Did they favorite a property? These are all important pieces. We love automation for that. I'm going to move on here a little bit because I'm super far behind time. I'm sorry. Let's go ahead and look at the client and referral loop. The final piece of this lead generation model is the client referral loop. Once the lead has been converted to a contact, they can now provide either new business or I guess repeat business, right? Depending on what the lead is, or they can provide referrals. I love referrals. Mm-hmm. The best referrals, and I just closed one yesterday. Yeah, yesterday we just got one. So I love referrals because it's from a trusted source passing along someone that they know and love, which a lot of times means it's going to be a person that's a lot like the referring source, right? If you think about that, a lot of times people hang out and are closest with people that are somewhat like them, whether that's stage of life, economic opportunity, or just things that they enjoy, right? So maybe it's a barbecue club. We tapped into a barbecue joint here in town and got like 6 referrals out of it. Right? So I love referrals because you kind of know you have an established trust basis and you kind of know the kind of person you're working with. So we love this and we call this a loop, right? Because they're new or repeat, or they're going to give us a referral. That referral then now goes back up to the top, right? That's this little line to the right that's a little bit faded. It might be the left on your screen, but it's the line that runs all the way back up into the database. That referral then lands back in the database and we cultivate it for conversion again, right? So this, regardless of business, right? Whether that referral immediately transacts or transacts in 6 months, they continue to stay in that database. Now, also the new closing or that repeat client closing, they also stay in your database. So we should have unique follow-up plans based on these different types of situations, right? And thankfully, there's this massive smart plan library out there that has a lot of this pre-built, right? So we want to continue to make sure our smart plans are unique to us, but use that library, guys. It is amazing in there. All right. So as you nurture these leads and contacts, you continue to lead generate. You're either going to continue to transact new. This thing never ends. This is a cycle. This is the life cycle of lead generation. Okay. Time block it, time block it, time block it. We know that. Also, this cylinder, the size of it, right? The width, the girth of your lead generation database determines the size of your business. It is literally the how that helps you reach your goals. What do you think, Clark? You got anything to add?
Yeah, understanding this process, and I know you're going to be introduced to a lot of models of Keller Williams, yet there's a richness in the simplicity, right? Because when we get into our business and think through day in, day out conversations with leads, our current clients, transactions, this brings it back to center and saying, okay, yes, I understand this, and this is where I'm at in this process. That's why I've always enjoyed that visual of the lead gen model. And also know if it could seem like a lot for a lot of our participants, and you're just beginning, right? So this is an introduction. You'll see it again. You'll develop your mastery over time. But yeah, so again, the models are meant to bring simplicity and to keep you back on track when things seem overwhelming or possibly out of sorts. And so that's the brilliance of that. So
yeah, it's exactly right. It's exactly right. I love this company because they give you the framework, the map, and then they tell you how to work that framework or how to work that model. Then they just say, look, we can't do it for you, right? That's the one piece that a lot of people miss is like Keller Williams will give you every tool or resource you need. Mm-hmm. And yet you have to do it. You have to put it into play, right? All right, let's move deeper into our SOI now. This is where it starts to get a little bit more touchy-feely and less so like cold, hard, unemotion. So our sphere of influence, this is such an important part of our business. Again, going back to the basics in 2022, we're going to hyper focus on the people we know and love. Because as interest rates rise, these people's needs are going to get a little bit more unique, right? Now we can't just continue to refinance all the way down into the 2%. Now, if we want to make a change, it's going to be a bigger decision, right? So they're going to need someone that they really rely on, they trust, and they know. So let's be that person. So we've talked about this SOI, this whole sphere so far. Let's dig further into it. Let's talk about, first of all, who's in it, okay? So sphere of influence, the people in your life that influence you and that you have influence over, right? It can be close relationships, close friends or family, or it could actually be distant connections, right? So we get a lot of leads just from Facebook, or I say organically, it's not organic at all, but we get with these relationships where I don't have their phone number, but I'll just get a direct message in that says, hey man, I'm interested in investing in real estate. Or, hey, we just got this one. Hey, my mother just passed. We need to sell her home. I saw you're a real estate agent and it looks like you're having a lot of fun. You know, it's like having a lot of fun. What does that mean? I just post things, right? So when we're looking at it, it could really be anyone. Right? I've talked a lot about groups we're involved in, the barbecue group, the fishing group, the Barks and Brews, that kind of community around pets, church, previous jobs, right? Clark, I guarantee that your last 10 years as an educator just super powered your lead generation in SOI.
Yep, absolutely.
You had 10 years being established as an authority and a trusted figure in your community. Mm-hmm. How many kids went through your classrooms?
Oh, goodness, man. Yeah. Never actually tallied it up other than the ones that I brought into the database. I can give you that numbers are tagged yet. Yeah, I'm sure I'm missing folks, thousands.
It's a ton. Our assistant team leader in our office is still in production, and he used to be the band teacher for a local high school.
Mike, yeah.
Right? So a lot of his early students are now buying homes. Mm-hmm. So he transacts a ton just on these kids that he used to teach how to play the tuba or the tambourine, you know? So it can be really anyone. I think the important part is to recognize that it can be anyone, right? Anyone that you might come into contact with. So it's important to connect with them, especially the current people in your SOI. It's great to take a moment and really dig down into that. Okay. So I think that's where we're going to next here in our participant guide. One way to expand our SOI is to just change how we're thinking about it, right? So far, we've talked about all of these sources and events and connections and all that stuff. But there's another way to think about it and to consider even more people. Here's 15 categories. And I love that number 15 is other, by the way. Like, okay, thank you so much. Apparently there's a multitude here. Immediate family, friends, relatives, neighbors, past coworkers, hobby sports groups, teachers, worship club, volunteer, professional services, financial, legal services, personal services, home, auto services, real estate agents, real estate services, other. That professional services, by the way, I think it's one of the, or real estate services too. I think one of the least tapped lead sources is the vendors in our network.
Yep.
And a lot of times it might not be that our lender's not giving us enough referrals, but are we leveraging our relationship with our lender to have him or her maybe fund some of our lead generation or our events? Are we partnering with title companies with educational seminars for our communities? I mean, when we really think about sphere of influence, it's not just who can hand me a lead. Sometimes it's who can cooperatively benefit from my lead generation efforts. As a real estate agent, specifically inside of insurance and title and all these areas, we tend to be the lead aggregator, not Zillow. It tends to be us who we refer. We track inspectors, title companies, insurance agents, all of that extremely tight. That way, at the end of the year, we can call that inspector and say, hey, did you know, Clark, that you inspected 55 homes for us this year? Those 55 homes produce 55 times 500, whatever that number is, in gross income for you. We're so excited that you're a partner. You have great customer service. We're launching an event called Barks and Brews. We would like you either to A, be a flagship sponsor and send a check for $2,000 to sponsor the event. You'll be on shirts, t-shirts, marketing, and of course you can attend, or would you donate a silent auction item, right? So when you think about these relationships, it's not just one-to-one. A lot of times it can be for one-to-one referrals, right? A lot of times it can be funding for these other areas. How can we reduce our lead generation budget through these relationships? Looking at, again, professional services and some of these services, I want to just highlight a few ideas inside of these. The first for professional services might be your doctor, therapists, your dog trainer. That's a great one for Barks and Brews. I'm going to keep that one. Number 10, financial and legal services, your attorney, accountant, bank teller. I have sold more houses to people who work in banks than any other lead source in my SOI. It's crazy. Like, it's wild. Number 11, personal services, nails, hair, massage, trainer, babysitter. 12, home auto, your landscaper, your painter. A lot of times, landscapers and painters are in homes before real estate agents. There's a huge lead source there. Car detailer, maybe a housekeeper. 14, again, we talked about our photographers, our appraisers, our lenders, our inspectors, all that kind of stuff. And then other, I really like this one. I really like the other category because this is where our creativity gets to set in. So we've set this base model of our lead generation, and now we get to use some of our own creativity. So this is where the kayak group, the barbecue club, we have a guy here who does a bourbon and cigar, right? So you have all kinds of creativity. This is where we get to build it around ourselves. All right, so let's talk about categorizing the sphere of influence again. So as you think about these 15 categories, let's just take a couple minutes here. And I think we are going to pause on this one, right, Clark?
Yep.
Okay. Take a few minutes here to quickly jot down some of the people that are in your SOI that you don't think are in your phone, right? Mm-hmm. So you look at these categories. Let's brainstorm at least one person for each category if you can. That is your challenge for the next 2 minutes. Go.
Yeah, and Wes, I'll tell you what we'll actually do because let's take a couple minutes, but let's add a few more minutes in case folks need a little refreshment break or anything else. We'll just go ahead and pause. Let's call it 5 minutes.
Perfect.
Brainstorm for a couple of minutes, grab a drink of water, restroom, whatever you need. We'll come back in 5.
Perfect. Welcome back. All right. So now that you've taken the time to brainstorm some of these different categories of your sphere of influence, take a moment, of course, after this, and I want you guys to kind of share them. And I know we had talked about doing that on this break. The other thing I want you to do is, if you have time afterward, to go through and remember that calculation exercise that we did with our SOI and our contacts in our phone. Go ahead and just do that same calculation with this fresh set. That's going to be another number, another opportunity that you have. So looks like this SOI thing might be bigger than we thought it was, huh?
Yep. Got to look under every nook and cranny. It grows.
I love it. All right, so let's rock and roll. Are we ready to shift our mindset? Let's do it. We have to figure out how to change what we see in order to change the results in our business, right? So if you think back on your day yesterday. We're going to take just a couple minutes to think about that time you got up to the time that you went to bed. When you woke up, what did you do? Did you call your mom yesterday? Did you look at the news on your phone? Check your email, wake your kids up, grab a workout? What'd you do? If you talk yourself through that day, wake up, shower, send emails, get in your car, make sure you get your Starbucks, because everyone does that. Run an errand, drop off your dry cleaning, whatever, just write it down, okay? When you've written this down, you're going to find yourself saying, oh my goodness, I think I connected with like 30 people yesterday, right? That might be family members, like the call to mom. It might be the dry cleaner. It might be your barista at Starbucks. Regardless, all of these people you've created some version of a relationship with throughout your day, right? So these are the people we need to track. As silly as it is, we do know our barista's name. And thank God for Facebook, because we can just type it in and they're probably going to pop up, right? So cultivating these relationships are other ways for us to open up our sphere. Again, the dry cleaners. Right? When was the last time a dry cleaner got asked if they needed to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? Maybe never, let alone at their job, right? This is a huge opportunity out there, is to just daily be thinking through your rhythms and your routines. Who are you connecting with? Who do you connect with maybe on a monthly, weekly, daily basis that really should be turning into new repeat and referral business? It's a big deal. So looking at these, let's start dropping those same people into our databases, right? Why not? We will collect their information, but also let's look at it a different way. Is there another opportunity to, hey, stop by, I have an extra coffee, would you like it, right? That's a big one. I know my business partner, Dan Holt, used to do that a lot. He'd go to whatever coffee shop he was stopping at and buy 2 coffees, and he'd look around and see who he knew in the area, right? Is there a bank that he's banked at before? Is there whatever? He would literally go in and just set the coffee down, whether they wanted it or not, and just say, hey, I had an extra, thought of you, have a great day, right? Amazing little touches. We can do these things. So these people we've interacted with, think about those interactions. How can you deepen your relationship with those people? Could you have smiled? Could you have, politely said, hey, I know we see each other every day and I don't know your name. Can you remind me of your name? How simple is that? I would tell anyone my name if they smiled and asked me, right? Wouldn't you, Clark? You'd be like, oh, I'm Clark. And we're real estate agents. So we're like, I'm in real estate. So we'll just tell them everything, right? But insurance agents, goodness, everyone who's in any sort of sales or customer facing role is going to tend to have a similar personality and open up. So those people that you didn't interact with directly, so maybe that you went through the drive-through at Starbucks instead of going in, right? I bet you could still get a good morning in and start cultivating that relationship over time, right? Changing the way we reframe or think about our days is going to change the way we think about meeting potential buyers and sellers and growing our SOI, right? Your job is to meet and connect with people. So if you think about it, we can do it every day. And that's kind of cool. All right, let's look at a bold law now. This is a fun one, okay? And we've just talked about this over and over. If we change the way we look at things, the things we look at will change. Change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. Clark, you're a MAPS coach. What does this mean to you?
Oh yeah, perception is reality, and I see this as getting the opportunity to slow down and and be curious about what I'm currently doing. And that's why I love this little activity that we're walking through, is it really allows me to slow down and look almost objectively, like take a step back and remove assumptions, remove habits, and say, what am I missing here? And when I do that, things come about, opportunities arise. Things get really, really inspiring.
Yeah, they totally do. Before I started in real estate, I made like maybe 30,000 a year, like maybe, right? And again, I'd already mentioned my wife was a teacher. Her contract was for 24,000 a year. So like combined incomes weren't super high. 2 years into real estate, we hit $1 million net worth. The way you look at things, right? That's going to be the lead determiner of whether you're going to achieve the goals in your life or not. 100%. That's also why I've taken Bold 6 times. Now I've taken Old Bold 6 times, so it's been a while. I need to get back into the new one. But Bold literally stands for Business Objective, a Life by Design. The best thing about Bold is not the 20 contacts. We just go ahead and put that out there. The best thing about it is how it helps you reorient your mindset around abundance, about actually getting a life that you want and you deserve, right? I know it maps, and you can correct me on this, but I think one of the main things they coach their coaches on is to view their clients as whole people.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
It is so important. It's not just about the daily activity. It's about how you think, how you feel, right? You said it, perception is reality. If you perceive you can't do it, in reality, you won't do it.
Right.
We know that. So these 15 categories, like you said, that's a pause for us. Let's reorient the way we're thinking about lead generation. Let's look at it as opportunity generation, right? If I know every closing I'm going to net somewhere around $5,000 to $10,000, how many closings do I actually want? Could I make $100,000 a month in this business? The answer is yes, right? Okay. Being a successful agent is all about finding more people to help and serve, buy, or sell homes. That's it. Keywords: people and serve, right? People and serve. Don't mistake the conversation about money and numbers and all of that as being robotic or not personable. This business is about helping others. But the only way to do that in mass is to be in relationship in mass, right? Okay, let's move forward here a little bit. We're going to skip this next aha section and let's move right into expanding our SOI. I am behind time, and this is pretty standard for Wes Litton, so we're going to just keep rocking and rolling here. Now that we've talked about lead gen, why your SOI is so important, and these sources that you have, we've already talked about the people in it, how to expand it, shifting the way we think about it. Let's go ahead and expand even further, okay? So a great touch campaign for our SOI. I love our birthday girl here. Like, what is this graphic? I love it so much. A good touch campaign consists of several types of interactions. Obviously, face-to-face, email, handwritten notes, etc. in order to complete these touches, right? So a touch campaign is inside of our cylinder, and it's this process of keeping in contact with our leads, right? Our contacts, leads to contacts, and then touch campaigns around our contacts, okay? So of course we need phone numbers, emails, physical addresses, work addresses, whatever information we can get, and we want to reach out to them in various ways. What we're going to do is we're going to use this database to help us systematically follow up. We're going to do that through these campaigns that either in automation send a text or email, or they give us a task to do, right? So Clark, when we log into Command, we actually can have there's a whole section of tasks, right?
Yep, absolutely.
And these automations will put them onto literally your plate that day, right?
Yeah.
And so they can be, write a handwritten note to Clark Kendall and thank him for having us on, Ignite.
Yeah.
Or it could be anything you build it to be. That's what's so cool. You can use almost anything you want to in terms of contact. Now, let me ask two things to you, Clark, real quick. Number one, why is it so important that we have their personal information? So we not only want anything we can find out about them, but we want it strategically, right? We, of course, birthdays. I do the pet thing because we do the event around pets. family status. I love this. It's like the best lead generation, prospecting, or marketing, however you want to do it, is this question. Hi, Clark. How are you? How are you doing? Right? That's going to elicit so much information for you. Store that information in your database. That way, the next time a task or a touch comes up, you can follow up on that. Hey, Clark, hey, the last time we talked, your oldest daughter had just had, fallen down and hurt her wrist real bad, and you were in the ER. I'm so sorry about that. I hope she's healed. Is she doing well? Right? You can literally create and cultivate relationships in a non-robotic fashion by recording these notes. Hypothetically, let's say we're recording birthdays and a birthday pops up on your task list or your notifications inside of Command. We can do anything with that. We can text them. We can make a big deal about it on Facebook. We could send them a card. We could show up at their office with a coffee. Like, it allows the creativity of each individual agent to be themselves in relationship with that contact. That's what's so important, right? All right. We're looking at, again, expanding our SOI. Just the same with any other information. How do we get these other pieces? We ask. We just ask good questions. We are real people asking authentic questions because we want to stay in real relationships with them, right? If we're faking it, they're going to know. I mean, we all know when a friend, family member, acquaintance, whatever, fakes it with us, right? There's a reason they tend to stay acquaintances, The true people that we're eliciting business from and working with over our lifetimes, okay? It's a lifetime relationship that we're cultivating here. That's, these questions are simple. Clark just mentioned he had 3 kids. Clark, what are the ages of your kids?
8, 6, and 4. Yeah. Yep.
He doesn't care to tell the whole world on Ignite. Why would he care to tell you on the phone? But it's super important. 8, 6, and 4. The next time we call, hey, that's amazing, Clark, that you have an 8, 6, and 4-year-old. We're going to be in St. Louis in 3 weeks. I've got a 5 and 3. Maybe we could go to the park, right?
A lot of good parks.
Great way to cultivate it.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, the St. Louis Zoo is off the chain.
It is.
Talk about that for a minute. The greater Heartland, St. Louis is where it's at. All right. Again, if you see it's a birthday, Facebook's a great way to connect. They get 1 million Facebook messages. Do something unique or direct message them, right? And Facebook's the easiest for birthdays, by the way. Just log in every day, look at the birthday thing, and start commenting. Or post a picture of you and them, whatever it is. All right. Again, casual relationships, pull them into closer proximity. I love this picture. We've been talking about kids. I talked about the little golf group we're in. What are you already doing? PTA, school events, extracurricular activities. What are you already doing with your kids or in your friendships? I like to play pickup basketball. So I've got a ton of closings out of those pickup basketball relationships, right? So what are you doing? How can you be more attentive in those events? I will admit, sometimes the Little Linksters golf event with my 5-year-old daughter is about as mindless as it gets. Like, it's terrible. She's terrible. She knows it. She still loves it. Great. It's not fun to watch. Is she cute? Of course she's cute. But it's about being attentive to what's going on around you, to interact with the other parents, to interact with the other kids if it's appropriate, to continue to cultivate your influence in these circles that you already exist in, right? Influence equals income. Whether we like it or not, the more influence you have in someone's life, the closer proximity they're going to be to you, and they're going to think about you first, right? In the old Lead Gen 36-12-3, there's this graphic, and people do business with people who they know, like, and trust. But then underneath all that, it says, and remember. That's why proximity matters. All right. Lastly, what other ways could we go ahead and grow? And that is largely going to be through joining groups, right? Volunteer, please give back to your communities, be involved in your communities, Chamber of Commerce events, local charities. I play City League basketball at the YMCA. All the funds go to support the kids at the Y. What can you do not only to just garner influence, but to give back in your area, right? Keller Williams loves this. Not only do they love it, they encourage it, right? All right. And then lastly, in that lead generation model, just be sure that your sphere knows you're a real estate agent. They can do that through casual conversation. They can do it through Facebook, whatever it is. Just make sure that it's there. It's out there that you're an agent. You don't have to be obnoxious. Just make sure that it's known. All right, gathering the leads from your sphere of influence. We're going to be pretty quick on these pieces, but they're very important. First of all, we want to make sure that we are building business on people that we know and that they know that we know them, right? So who do you know? All those things that we've just talked about. Who do you know that may be buying, selling, investing in real estate? I don't love that conversation. Sometimes I'll reframe it and say, hey, Clark, I'm a real estate professional. It is my job to connect with friends and family members to make sure that if they have a need inside of real estate, I can be there to support them. I realize this is kind of a weird businessy conversation, but I wanted to make sure I had it with you. That way I didn't leave you wanting or lost inside this real estate market. Super easy. It can be normal. It doesn't have to be, who do you know looking to buy, sell, or invest, right? And I love that follow-up script. If you hear of someone with a real estate need and you think I'd be a good fit to serve them, do you mind just sending me their information or referring me to them? Very, very simple. I'd love you guys to role play these, right? Take the scripts that we get in bold and maps and all these things, make them your own, make them you, right? Again, Clark, I'm going to skip ahead over these ahas. That way we can really get through this. We're going to now look at some of the best practices inside the lead gen. And finally, guys, I'm so sorry, but I'm going to be as quick as I can. I realize I'm over time. Number one, we got to prepare for lead generation. Okay. I might be ahead of myself here. Yeah, I am. Look at that. Number one, we got to track our lead sources. So know where your leads are coming from. Number two, audit them, right? Like focus on your top producing lead sources. If you're doing something, it's not producing anything over a longer period of time, let's be done with it. Is that fair? So I would say, and Clark, you can correct me on this, I like to give things a good 6 to 12 month time frame to track results. It's not ever going to be an immediate thing. In fact, in today's market, a closing generally takes 45 to 60 days. Like, I don't know about in your market, but I can't find an appraisal. I can't get an appraisal in 30 days. Like, it just does not exist anymore. So track those lead sources, audit those lead sources over time, continue to focus on your top producing lead sources. So energy and effort can go to numbers 1 through 5, maybe 1 through 3. Let's really focus in on those. And then, of course, diversify your database. Right? Like just hanging out with the people that you know is, fine. But diversity is not just one thing. It's not just who you know. And it's not just like when we think of it in terms of inclusion, it's not just race. It's what makes all of us unique. It's the different cultural backgrounds, experiences, personalities, beliefs, all of it, right? Race, nationality, gender, physical, mental ability, spiritual, religious beliefs, class, sexual orientation, so much more is super important here, right? We cannot practice. In fact, it is illegal for us to practice any sort of exclusion inside of our services. So when we're looking at this, a diverse database and sphere of influence actually prepares you for this market that's coming. I don't know if you've seen what's going on demographically, but more and more of these unique pieces of our world, right? A lot of these minority groups or LGBT, there's so much power inside of their communities. We have to support and include them. Like it is our responsibility to, right? So as this market shifts and as whether it's on a national scale, regional, local scale, politics shift and the USA continues to grow and evolve and transform, it becomes imperative that we serve people at a high level regardless. Right? Grow that client pool. And I'll tell you, some of my favorite connections that I've made in real estate, they look nothing like me. They're from different places than me. Some of them don't even speak as a first language, the same language, right? I love serving a diverse customer base and it's fun. I mean, one of my best friends, he came from Mexico, started a restaurant here in town. His family, like most of his family doesn't even speak English at all, but he is so much fun and he is crushing it in the restaurant game. Like, it is so fun. So be consistent, lead generate every day, be inclusive in those practices, and really, again, track and audit. That's going to be super helpful for you. All right, here we go. Here's our time blocking. Everyone heard of you should lead generate for 3 hours a day? I don't like that. Let's look at these as our 3 hours. Number one, our first hour, we're going to prepare, okay? So that's mindset. That's getting yourself mentally in the right space. It's recapping some of the things we've talked about. We're going to practice that scripts, role plays, and we're going to prepare that call list. So we're going to know what we're saying. We're going to be in the right mindset to say it, and we're going to go ahead and be ready to begin dialing. Number 2, take action. Dial, text, whatever it is that you're doing that day, get it done, right? We talked about earlier that sometimes preparation is the enemy of action. We get so prepared that we just don't do it. Right? And then in our third hour, maintain, this is where we're going to take all of our results from 1 and 2, our mindset exercises of going back in our previous days and tracking who we've talked to. We're going to plug them into our database. We're going to ensure that that database is cleaned up. Okay. Constantly love on that database. It is the machine that is cranking out closings for you. So love on that database. Make sure you have appropriate tags, smart plans, pipelines, all of that. And then let's do some follow-up in that too. So inside of your database, any of your tasks that are available for that day, in that third hour, we're going to get them done. And I think this frees people from this tyranny of I need to dial for 3 hours a day, right? We've talked about a million different ways to have communication and create contacts. I think in this situation here, if we really broke down our 3 hours of lead generation here, you'll see this is really just a mastery plan. Right? It's something that you can sustain long term, and it's going to push you to continue to evolve into a better person through your mindset adjustments, through continued practice, through having prepared people to talk to, and then actually taking that conversation in hand. It's going to be amazing. Lastly, battle distractions. This is a big deal. Let's build the bunker. Where can you go where you're not going to get distracted? Like, can we turn our phone upside down when we're on a call? Right? How do we, maybe a dialer program, again, TCPA compliant, but maybe a dialer can help keep you on the phone rather than you dialing each individual one. Number 2, store provisions. You guys haven't seen it, but in these breaks, me and Clark have been eating a little bit. I've got some coffee, some water. He's eating his lunch, whatever needs to be done to make sure that you don't have to necessarily get up and go drive to a restaurant or get out into the hallways of your market center, which is always chaos, by the way. So what provisions do you have there? Food, water, etc. Then sweep for minds. What distractions could get you, right? Can we turn Facebook and email off on our screens, right? Can we exit the internet browser? Right? What distractions can we get out of there? And then enlist support. If you have anyone around you, an accountability partner, an assistant, whatever, make sure people just stay out of your office. Right now in my office, in giant red letters, it says live. Do not enter, right? No one's entered. It's perfect. Who will help you? By the way, this all comes from the one thing. All right, guys, let's go ahead and wrap up this learning session, and we're going to transition to that success system. Clark, do you have any ahas to wrap up with today?
Yeah, goodness. My biggest aha is if you're still not keenly aware how lead generation can get you more of what you want and why you got into real estate, maybe not plugged in as much. Okay. So maybe there were some distractions. So encourage you. We went through so many best practices that the people you look up to, whether in your office or in other agents outside of your market center in KW world, they understood this and grew into it. Right. And so they started exactly where you were. That's my biggest aha, that they grew into it. Just like when Gary was talking about his challenges, understanding lead gen from the beginning. Everyone started exactly where you are today, right? And the only thing that they did differently than those people that are not in the business today is they understood the importance of lead gen and committing to it, growing themselves, putting those limiting beliefs, but following these best practices.
That's exactly right. Yeah. These final pieces here, the actual action steps, they're not anything shocking. Right? Everything beforehand, the models and the mindset, I think that's what frees us to do what we know will create the incomes necessary to live the lives we want, to have the careers, the businesses, the experiences, right? And to leave ultimately those legacies. I completely agree with you, Clark. And team, thank you so much for having me today. I'm going to pass off to Clark. That way he can wrap things up. If you love me, you can leave me an evaluation at kwueval.com. Otherwise, I'll catch you on the flip side.
All right, Wes, thank you again so much. Honored to have you. And again, reach out. We put his email in there. Any other follow-up points, weslitton@kw.com. Wes,
right.
Thanks.
Thank you, Clark.
So for those of us, we're now shifting into the market center daily success activities, right? So make sure that if you're there, being aware of what that time frame looks like. You might take a break, might take some lunch here, and yet we're going to go into having those 10 conversations daily, adding those 10 people, 10 new people to the database, writing those 10 notes, and then the social media 10, 5, 1. So practice together, get warmed up with scripting and role playing on forward and getting those activities. If there's anything that really spoke to you, or if you understand lead generation at a deeper level, or from the daily success activity you've already brought into, would love to hear about your success. Put in the comments, reach out to us. Let's celebrate together. See you all next time.